bright in here.
Well, we are live on now. It's not quite 7:15, so if you are here in the house, make sure that you have grabbed a piece of paper, your water, and your coffee. We're going to do one thing before we get started. What time do you guys have?
10:15. Well, 7:15.
7:15. Yeah.
East Coast. Why?
That's right.
I'm going to turn this down, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully, it's just 7:15, so I'm going to give you all a few minutes to just get relaxed. I know some of you may just be getting home, hopping on this webinar. Those of you that are on the East Coast, like my guest, you're probably relaxed in your PJs and you've decided to hang out with us. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We so appreciate you. So, like I said, we are just getting started. Let's give everyone an opportunity to jump on and get relaxed. And then we're going to start shooting off some questions. And I'm going to introduce my guest. But before we do that, let me do one other thing, you all, real quick. I just want to post in the group for those who are not watching us right now and give them an opportunity to join us. So for those of you who may want to invite your friends, I want you to have that opportunity. Let me give you the site as to where they can go. They can go to www.myfinancialhome.com/money-sex-power. Spread the word, get your friends on, and we're going to get started momentarily. I'm going to go ahead, you all, and post this on my main page so that we have others joining us. All right, we are live and on air. So how's everyone tonight? Hopefully you all had an opportunity to grab something to eat. You have your pen and some paper because this is going to be a very interesting conversation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cosette M. White, known to many to thousands as the Money Coach. I am the CEO and president of My Financial Home. We are a wealth management organization as well as a business development where we help individuals grow their personal finances, and we also help businesses grow their wealth as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest tonight because tonight we're going to be talking about money, sex, and power. Now, to many, as you know, that's like taboo. That's kind of one of those subject matters that we don't have out in the open, but maybe when we're amongst the fellas or when we're amongst the girls, we have those type of conversations. But I wanted to bring a few of my colleagues into the webinar tonight just to have an open conversation about about money, sex, and power. So let me just go ahead and introduce them to you. We have Trevor Scott Jr., who is all the way, and let me just switch over to Trevor. He's all the way in New Jersey. So Trevor, you want to go ahead and share all about yourself and tell them more about you?
Thanks for having me, Cosette. My name is Trevor Scott. Obviously, let me look at the camera, so not used to it. My name is Trevor Scott. I'm a dating and relationship coach. Can you guys hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I got started back in, 2013. Prior to that, I was an executive director in a company where I was charged with training many people on the topic of personal development. I had a relationship at the time, back in 2008, a 5-year relationship that came to a halt. We canceled the wedding, a very long story. But from that time frame, I decided to kind of shift my influence, which at that time I was reaching thousands of people. I decided to shift my influence toward dating and relationship as a result of some of the things that I had come to know at that time, whether it be interviewing 300-400 married divorced couples, interning with a couple of marriage counselors, and just using my experience of coaching people in personal development. And I just had a bright idea that I could help people find their way to marriage. And it started off with men and women, still coach men and women, but mostly women between the ages of 35 and 50 call me now. We have about 16 people that have gotten married working with us, so we're excited about that, but looking to increase it to 50. And that's how I came to be where I am today.
Wow, 16 marriages. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And then let me introduce to you all our next guest for tonight. Her name is Kenya, and she is here with me in Los Angeles, California. Kenya Madrayer. And you know, like I said, I'm going to allow her to tell us all about herself. So Kenya, the mic is all yours.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight. I am a relationship coach, and I got started about, 8 years ago. I was in a relationship with my daughter's father. We were together for 7 years. We had a child. We were engaged. And 6 months after our engagement, I woke up one day and said, you know what? I don't want to do this. After being with him for 7 years and a child, I woke up one day and said, I don't want to do this. We didn't fuss. We didn't fight. We didn't have a bad relationship, but there was just no connection. And I know that I knew that I didn't want to be there for the long haul. And so that prompted me to make this career move, because a lot of people get married for what you might say the wrong reasons. So my job is to encourage healthy relationships and to make sure that people get into a marriage for the right reasons and stay in a marriage. So that's what I do. I coach couples and singles to help them gear up and be ready for the marriage that they would like to be in. So I want people to have that light bulb moment within themselves and within their relationship to make sure that they have a healthy marriage, if that is the route that they would like to be in. So I'm very excited. I've had several engagements throughout my career as well, and I'm so excited. They are all planning their wedding as we speak, and I can't wait for those weddings. I'm so excited for them.
All right, absolutely. So let's talk about some things here tonight, because you all are relationship specialists. And my specialty, as you know, they call me the money coach, and I help individuals gain clarity and focus with their finances. But, you know, my target audience is predominantly women. And so that's who I work with. And through it all, you know, I hear a lot of stories that go on. And I want to ask you all, because you deal with the interpersonal, you deal with them on a let's get this relationship together. Maybe they're coming to you either with problems, or maybe you have that individual that just can't find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right for that matter. So when coaching, let's have this conversation on money. What's your philosophy or your theory on money? What is it that you tell the individuals as it relates to money? Because when I'm working with my clients, I always start with the concept of let's pull our money together. So let me hear from either of you your take on how you coach individuals as it relates to money and the relationship, whether they're a couple dating or if they're married. And I guess that opens up a whole nother window, because if you're a couple dating, when do you have that conversation about money?
Mm-hmm.
Which one of you want to?
Okay, well, for me, how I coach my clients is all based on a comfort level. You have to be comfortable with that person in order to open up any conversation, especially money. So with that said, if you're comfortable having that, whether you are dating for a few weeks or a few months or a few years, it's all about the comfort level. Now, my first question to each individual would be, how important is money? Because you have some individuals, and not just in a relationship, you have some individuals who feel money ain't a thing, as they would say. And then you have some that feel like money is important. It's everything. I can't do anything without it. So first we have to get down to the bottom line on how important is money to the individual. And then you will find out how it will work in a relationship.
Okay. But when do you introduce that? Well, Trevor, let me get your take on it.
Okay. I'm very big on staying away from, when it comes to relationships and dating, staying away from like a cookie cutter answer. So I'm going to explain a little bit, but the first response is, I wrote down here, it really does depend on the individual, because if you have two people that, what I say, know their love blueprint, or they're very clear on what they want. A lot of people say they know what they want until they have someone like me challenge them, and then they start taking things off that list. But if you're two people that are very clear on what they want, I can see that conversation progressing a little bit quicker. I remember when I first started dating my wife, when I looked on her coffee table one day, I came over to hang out. I saw a book on her coffee table that said something about how money affects marriages or something like that. Now, it says something like that, or how to choose a guy and something would do with money. So I kind of glanced at it because I didn't want to make it a big deal, but I remember thinking consciously, oh, wow, she pays attention to that stuff. But luckily at that time, I had mentors that had me living off of 60% of my income. So I was saving 40% for a couple of reasons. As a man, I was saving for a ring, even though I didn't have a woman in sight. I really wasn't looking for marriage necessarily, but I was told to have that ring fund, because if you come across the right woman, you don't want money to be the reason you're delaying that process. And good thing they told me that, because we got engaged after 9 months. But my point is, with my wife and I, we became boyfriend and girlfriend 3 months in. We probably started talking about money maybe 4 or 5 months in, because although we didn't move in together right away, we kind of started having that conversation. And so last statement, we got engaged after nine months. And then we moved in together because we wanted to, like you said, pool our resources together. So that whole year that we were engaged, waiting for the marriage, we lived together. We had a joint account, but we also had separate accounts. I think that's important, because if my wife wants to surprise me, I don't want to get the notification on my phone that she just bought me a spa date or something. So that's my answer on that.
So separate accounts. Okay. I kind of agree with that. Now, when we talk about separate accounts, what about that?
Separate and joint.
Separate and joint?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. All right. That's what I would say, separate and joint, his and hers. Now let's talk about when we're talking about money, let's talk about the couple that's already married. Mm-hmm. And say we have those couples, those individuals that like to spend a lot, our shopaholics, or what we call them, excessive spenders that don't save. What do you counsel those individuals on, or how do you coach those individuals? Trevor?
Okay, me. Well, sorry. If that conversation does come up, and I haven't had that conversation very recently with a lot of my current clients, but what I was doing before, I remember speaking to people a lot regarding finances. And I think when it comes to a married couple, and thinking of the two that I remember this conversation directly, one of them has to paint a vision. Just saying something about saving money, it doesn't sound as sexy as, hey, I would like to take 4 vacations a year with you and sit on a beach with you, or make love to you on a beach. It's not as sexy as saying, hey, I would love for us to be able to have someone come and clean the house twice a week if we saved and budgeted for that, so that maybe I have more time to do this and go places with you. So I think it really is about the why, the reason why you're doing something that can inspire that person to want to, look at that Starbucks, no offense to Starbucks, or look at Dunkin' Donuts and say, I'll pass on the coffee today. So I think it's really about painting the vision. And if you're the saver and they're the spender, there's a sale going to be made. Either you're going to sell them on why they should save more, or they're going to sell you on why they need to spend more. So get your sales skills up, so to speak, and pitching them on why they should join your team, so to speak.
Got it. Got it. And how about you, Kenya?
Yes, I definitely agree that you have to make it sound appealing, because when you talk the word budget, it sounds like a shackle. You know, it just seems like it's a rope. So you have to get creative on how you're going to explain where the money is going and why it is going there. Even the word bills is kind of like, oh my goodness. So when I talk to my clients, I try to get a different wording, make it fun, make it sexy on why we're saving, why we're spending. And even before that, getting to know each other's spending habits or non-spending habits, because I've had relationships with my clients to where some were the big spender and the other one was very tight with their money. So there had to be a balance, and also not letting it affect the relationship. You're having your joint account and you're having your separate account as well. So as long as it's not the money isn't affecting the relationship or the spending habits or where the money is going, then everything will fall in place from there. But talking money has to be sexy.
Okay, it does. Money has to be sexy. Money is sexy. So listen, when you're coaching your clients, bribery. Does bribery work in relationships, you all, when it comes to money and power? You know, sometimes we see that from a man's standpoint, you know, that bribery. And then, you know, we even have the women out there who try to play those games, you know, that power game, just because they're in a position where they're making money. So does it really work? And let's talk about that. Who wants to go first? Ladies first.
Okay, great. Well, bribery that has malicious intent is never good. Now, there are some, again, we're using the word sexy here. There's some sexy bribery, like, hey, if you save some money, then, you know, I'll do a little extra something on this vacation. Or, you know, if you don't buy that pair of shoes, then, you know, it's going to be greater later. Something like that can be really sexy and cute. But bribery with malicious intent is never, ever healthy in a relationship.
Okay, I agree. Trevor?
I was going to say one of my favorite books is The Art of Seduction. And it talks about how there was a shift in power where men physically stronger, and then women kind of started using, it started off as sex and it became more psychology against men, where they had the power. And so I would say, yes, bribery does work, because I would tell you right now, if my wife told me that it was on right now, I might leave you guys. So right. Bribery does work. No, I'm joking. but I agree with that last piece. She said malicious intent. I think that changes the whole dynamic of bribery, because, you know, my son bribes me. Daddy, I love you. Can I have some more cookies? Like, you know, it's okay.
Got it. Got it. Okay. All right. Now, you know, what about respect in the relationship? How does that, you know, diminish the relationship when you get into couples? And I don't know if you all probably coach couples from a standpoint of trying to find matches. I know you do, Trevor. You're the connector. You connect the two together. So what are some of the tips that you can advise the viewers that are out there when we're talking about money, sex, and power? What are some of the techniques that you use?
As far as respect?
Respect, and then just when we're talking about connecting, I know I kind of switched,
okay.
But let's
okay.
Respect, and then let's jump into how do you connect.
Okay, I think just the first thing that popped in my head is, even when the term power couple pops up a lot. And I think a lot of times people get confused. Maybe power couple means we take good pictures together, because I see a lot of people that say power couple in a picture, and then they're calling me, telling me about how they want to pull each other's hair out. I'm like, you just said you were a power couple. Like, what, you guys are pulling each other's hair out? So I really think, and I'm just thinking of the word respect when it came in, and just tying it all together. Generally, I know men love to feel admired and respected. And when they feel admired and respected, it could be something as simple as you know, a woman saying, you know, oh, it was a great choice in dinner tonight, a great choice in place you chose for dinner. she may not love the place, but she's doing that consciously because she knows it's going to build her man up. If a man understands his power, well, that's a woman. If she understands her power, just building the man up, she really does take control of that situation. If a man understands a woman, he understands that for her to feel empowered, or for him to kind of, in a sense, have power, I guess, is affection. If he can understand that providing his woman or the woman in front of him with affection, the dynamic of power is almost in his hands, because he understands that weakness, just like the man's weakness in some cases is admiration and respect. So as far as tying the two together, I think it really boils down to something as simple as like knowing each other's love language, because you can really heighten the passion in a relationship, not because of anything spectacular that you're doing, just because you consciously pay attention to the way your lover or your potential lover needs to be loved, and you cater to that. You don't have to tell them that, hey, I've been paying attention to you, so I love you the way you want to be loved. No, you just subtly do it to make them almost believe like, wow, this person just knows me. And it's probably because they were conscious enough to say, I'm putting my love life in my hands, and I want my love life and my relationship to head in this direction where we're on the same page financially, spiritually, sexually. So I'm gonna do these things to make this person feel that all of their needs are met. You're not doing it fraudulently because you want them to be happy. And I think that's where power comes in, with money and respect and unity in a relationship, is when you learn how to meet that person's needs. You got to learn men in general. You got to learn women in general. But after you learn that, study the person in front of you to really pay attention and really give them what they're looking for without them knowing that you're doing it.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So Kenya, let me ask you this question. The love languages. Let's talk about those love languages. Can you expound? Do you know the love language? You know the love languages, yes.
Yes, definitely. I love the love languages. I live by the love languages. I love them. So words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, quality time, and gifts. It is so important that you know your partner's love language. You do not necessarily have to have the same love language. It would be nice if you did, but if you do not, it is important to know and play on your partner's love language. I absolutely love it.
So
And go ahead.
give us some examples of those for the love languages.
Okay, so words of affirmation. That is the compliments, that is the acknowledgments, letting your partner know verbally that you are paying attention, that you appreciate them, that you admire them, that you desire them. You know, you look beautiful tonight. Like Trevor said, that was a great choice in restaurant. Not just going there and enjoying it silently, but let it be known that that was a great choice. I'm glad that you picked that. Or anything of that nature. Physical touch. I mean, there are some people that just needs to feel your partner. If you are watching a movie and you're sitting on the couch, don't be at one, at two ends of the couch. Be up under each other, hand on thigh, hand around your shoulder, anything like that. As you're walking through the mall, hand holding. That is physical touch. Acts of service. A lot of women think that, they see the acts of service from their man as taking out the trash, washing the dishes, or putting the dishes up once they have washed them. Things like that are acts of service. Quality time, that is taking away the us time, away from everything, away from the phones, away from the people, just sitting there and engaging in each other. And then the last one are gifts. A lot of people love gifts, whether it's a small flower that you just picked from the garden or bought, or a bracelet, or any gift that you provide, whether it's small or little. So those are the examples of the 5 love languages. So what I've seen in some of the clients that I have is that a woman, her love language is words of affirmation and not necessarily gifts. But a guy would continuously buy her gifts, but never acknowledge her presence or do anything verbally. Well, that was a problem because she really could not appreciate the gifts because his words were more important to her. So that's what I mean by knowing your partner's love language. Now, he necessarily was not into the words of affirmation. He didn't need her to say, "You're handsome," or "That tie looks good on you." He would rather the physical touch. He would rather her run up to him and just hug and kiss him immediately. So that's where some of the confusion comes in, when you really don't know what your partner needs or their love language is. So it is important to know, again, not necessarily have the same one, but know each other's love language so you can play on it.
Okay, all right. Well, let me just say this really quickly. You know, women are outnumbered. There's more women than there are men. And a lot of women these days are going to school and furthering their education, and you see them in different types of careers and owning their businesses and things of that nature. Now, when we look at all of that, you know, sometimes men can construe confidence as misconstrue it as power in a relationship. Let's have a conversation on that, because I myself, I know I've always been that one that says, tone it down a little. So let's have a conversation on that. And I'm gonna jump over here to Trevor. I want to hear a man's perspective on this one.
So I want to make sure I got the question. You said sometimes confidence can be misconstrued for power.
Yes.
Okay. Are you speaking of the guy who feels he has to kind of boss around in order to display that he's in charge? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or it can even be such that maybe the man feels like the woman is trying to wear the pants in the relationship. It could be misconstrued in a lot of different ways.
Okay, I do understand that, and I can see how that can be definitely a challenge for, and I would say the wrong guy. I come across a lot of women entrepreneurs or women who have powerful positions, and many of them, the ones that are married, they'll tell you that they don't have to shift gears necessarily when they get home. You know, because their husband understands who they are. I think when you have someone who is confident enough in themselves, they don't take it as you know, a balance of power. And you know, to be honest with you, I really believe that a lot of women silently hold a lot of the power in a relationship if they understand it, because they're the ones, I would almost say they're the engine of a lot of, even when I look at my own household, I definitely feel there's certain things that I almost feel like I won't have to ask my wife, or my wife doesn't really have to ask me or check with me with something like that, because I know any of her decisions are going to hold me in, or she's going to use or consider me in any decision that she makes. You know, so I hear a lot of times, and I'm not, you know, this again, I do believe different relationships have, you know, go by different rules. There's not a cookie cutter way, but my wife is an attorney. And I know she's very highly intelligent. I know that she knows me very well. She's studied me just like I studied her. So, you know, when it comes to, again, if you're in the right relationship, you won't necessarily have to, I can't say the right relationship, an ideal relationship, you won't have to worry about that balance of power, because myself as a man, I feel like I'm the head of the household. I'm responsible for it. But at the same time, my wife can make decisions without me. If we have to make a purchase, my wife doesn't have to call me and ask me, hey, do we have to make this purchase? Because I already know she probably thought about it 10 times and did a research before I did. So again, it's just a matter of finding that right guy and right woman that balances your character and your spending habits and your habits in general.
Got it. Okay. And Kenya, let me hear what you have to say, your take on this subject matter.
Well, that's where respect and trust comes in. You have to respect your partner in their individuality and their career, and that's where you guys have an understanding. So, you know, if you have a spouse that makes more than you or is in a higher career, be proud of them instead of envious of them. And I've seen that in a lot of couples as well. You know, a woman would get a promotion or make more than her man and he would be envious. You know, be proud. That's what she wants. That's her path. That's her passion. You know, and if that's not your passion to be somewhere where her career is equal, as long as you're happy in your passion, then you both should have that understanding and be proud of each other. But that's where the respect come in. When it comes to spending habits, as Trevor said, his wife doesn't need to add. That's where the trust comes in. Trust your partner, and your partner should trust you on the spending habits and the spending decisions that are going to be made with the money that is inside of the household. Now, I don't necessarily believe that money itself is the issue. It is what you do with the money and how you feel about the money. That's where the issue comes in, when you guys are at odds about what you do with it and how you feel about it. Because all men are not upset or envious of their woman making more money with them. Now, it becomes an issue when either one of them goes on a power trip or start to feel less than within themselves. And then that's when it becomes turmoil within the relationship.
Got it. Got it.
Because
Really? Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing. There's something called a mating rating. I forget what psychologist came up with it, but sometimes if you have sometimes, let's say a guy who's not very attractive, he has this aspiration of being with this very beautiful woman, and he would think that that's where he should be. When in actuality, through a lot of different studies, they say that if you're around the same level, if you're around the same level mentally or habitually with that person, you have a better chance of success. Because sometimes the guy who's not as attractive, maybe he feels envious of his woman, or he doesn't feel enough because he knows he's not as attractive. On the same flip side of money, sometimes people with this goal of, well, I want a guy, or not really men saying this, but I hear sometimes women saying, I want a guy that makes a certain amount of money. And I can understand why that is, because, ancestrally, traditionally, men would choose women based on how young they look and how young they are, and women would choose men based on their resources, because you got to go out and hunt that deer and bring him home. If you're not going to share it with my family, I don't want you. So I was just going to say what I forgot what I was going to say. It'll come back to me.
That's okay. That's okay. Because I have a question for you, Trevor. We're on the subject of power, and for those of you who don't know, I'm going to show you. This is Trevor's book.
Oh, I remember. You just reminded me. Can I share it really quickly?
Absolutely.
It's the mating rating. So basically, if when it comes to that the whole money trip, so to speak, I think you should find someone that's I want to say you want to find somebody who's on your level, and I know that's kind of hard to tell when you don't want to be as critical on yourself. So we always think we're better than we actually are. But I think that going into a relationship, I think you should kind of pick and choose your battles, if that makes sense. Meaning somebody may seem like they're right for you, or they may seem like a high goal, but it just may be out of your league, and sometimes it pays to admit that early on. That's all I was gonna say.
I agree. I agree with that too. I agree with finding someone that's on your level. You don't want anyone too far beneath you, and you don't want anyone too on a higher level than you. You find somewhere around your medium. I agree with that.
Unless you're willing to do the necessary things to grow to that level. But in many cases, most people aren't willing to do that. They just want this higher level quality person, and they're not willing to do what it takes to either attract or keep that person. So again, it's you can make a list of what you want, but are you prepared, or are you even capable of matching what that is that you're asking for? Whether it be the person financially, spiritually, physically, or emotionally.
Right. And I said that one more example, Cosette, I'm sorry. I had a couple where a woman was higher than her man, and what ended up happening is, over the years, the man said that he was going to do everything that he can do to reach his woman's level so they can be equal. But what ended up happening over the years is, as he kept going up, she kept going up as well. So it became a chase to where he could never reach where his wife was, because it was just a game. She was going higher and higher and higher. And so the level that he was at, in 2 years, she was already 4 or 6 years way above that. So now he's frustrated in this relationship because he just feels he can never catch up, and they can't be on the same level. So now it's an issue, and we're currently working through that right now.
Got it. So really quickly, 2 things. Both of you spoke on, and find someone on your own level, and also just really quickly, Trevor, your book, Never Settle. There's a chapter in here talking about using your power. Can you elaborate on when, from both sides, the man and the woman should be using their power? And that's lights, camera, action, using your power.
Okay, that's a that's a very deep concept, but I guess the short version of that is when I mentioned, or part of the conversation of using your power is, and I use the phrase lights, camera, action. I do believe um, we all play the director, the writer, and the actor in our love story. And I'll say love story. I'll say love story includes your finances. You know, because if you're married and happily married, part of that includes how are you guys physically, how are you guys financially, how are you guys emotionally. You know, so wealth in general is about balance. Using your power really has to do with your thought process, and I'm sure you could agree with this as far as what you put in, you get out. As far as your money habits, I mean, you study money on a higher level, so I'm pretty sure when it comes to money or investing, you have a higher success rate than a person who's just kind of fooling around or haphazardly spending or investing their money. But it's the same thing in relationships is when you really start to study the different aspects of it, you know, studying where you want to get, what other people have done to get there, what other people have done and failed in that aspect, or it's failed when they got to that point, just kind of gives you the framework to lay your own blueprint out. So using your power has a lot to do with controlling the thoughts that you allow yourself to think about. And that sounds really easy, but it's really about bombarding yourself with the information that you want. You know, obviously I'm a relationship coach, but obviously I'm an entrepreneur as well. And the same things I use when it comes to making a relationship work, I have to use to make my business work. You know, I have to brand myself. But part of branding yourself is how do you know, I had to see myself as what I'm doing now long before I even started. You know, one last thing I wrote in my affirmation statement. I don't have it up here. I wrote my affirmation statement maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it said, "People love the experience of working with me because my life is lived with purpose and conviction. They tell us this with emails, phone calls, and texts that pour into our office from around the country." Now, I said that long before I even started this, and it's ironic that if I showed you my Facebook page right now, people are sending me emails, texts, and phone calls about how I've been impacting their life. And so, again, it really had to do with me bombarding myself with the thoughts that I wanted to have until it started to become a habit of thought, which obviously shapes your action. So using your power is really, you said when to use it. In that aspect, you need to figure out what you're not doing and start doing more. Is find out what you're not doing and do that to increase your power. Because I'm telling you right now, just if you're not operating at 100% in your finances or in your life or your relationship, then there's something you're not doing. Just take it, take the responsibility.
Okay, all right. So real quick, in a relationship as it relates to the money, there's always that giver and there's always that take, you know, someone that's constantly giving and constantly taking. And sometimes it can have a deep effect on the relationship because the individual that's always giving begins to feel like he or she is being taken for granted. What do you all suggest in situations like that? But you know, and as I'm speaking, as I'm thinking about it, it kind of also goes back to the love languages, and I'll let you all shed some light on that. So what do you think, Kenya?
When it comes to giving and taking, again, it has to be reason and why behind it. There's nothing wrong with giving. When you start to feel bad or feel some kind of way about what you're giving, it's usually because you don't feel appreciated. It's not because all you're doing is giving and giving and giving, because you would think that you're giving out of the kindness of your heart. Or I just went to the mall and, oh, my man will look good in this shirt, so let's get it, or something like that. But when you feel that you're giving, and you're not appreciated, that's when the problem comes into play, and that's when a conversation needs to happen. I'm very big on communication and conversations happening when you start to feel some kind of way. As far as taking, it's the same thing. If you're taking advantage and you're just taking and you're not appreciating, and you don't feel like you have to do anything in return, and not just give a gift, because if your love language isn't giving, give something else in return. Give the affirmation, give the act of service. So give and take is necessary. It's definitely necessary. It is what you give and what you take that becomes the factor in the issue. And like I said, feelings are real. You have to pay attention to what you're feeling. When you start feeling bad about something or not natural about something, that's when it needs to be addressed.
Okay. All right. Trevor.
Can I was gonna say, it depends on, again, it depends on what stage of the romantic interaction you're in. If you're in a dating or situationship, you guys are not together. That's a little bit different than when you decided that the person that's in front of you is the person you're committed to meeting their needs for the rest of your life. So if you're married to someone and you're really stretching yourself, or if you're really pushing yourself to be the best you, then what you're really saying is this: you've decided that this person in front of you is the person you're going to commit to meeting their needs for the rest of your life. So if you've made that decision, I'm pretty sure you're confident that the person you're with loves you. And so if you feel a certain type of way about giving, I guess my question is, and don't get me wrong, I don't always feel this way. So this is just the other side of what she just said. Why are you giving? Are you giving to get a reaction from them? Because if you're giving to get a reaction from them, then you kind of miss the point of what you were giving, and you kind of miss the point of being committed to meeting their needs. Although, it is real though. If you're continually giving and you feel like you're not getting, then maybe it's a conversation that you need to have, because maybe that your partner might think that they're giving in just as much as you, but maybe they're missing the love language. So maybe they're giving. Maybe you experience love as chicken noodle soup, and they're giving you tomato soup, and they're like, hey, here's all this tomato soup. And you're like, but just show me some love, because you want chicken noodle soup. So it's just sometimes it's really just having a conversation or giving subliminal messages to let them know what you actually want that would make you feel like you're making them feel. But again, if you're giving, what's the reason you're giving?
Absolutely. Okay. When I'm speaking with my clients, I usually always tell them to make sure that they set aside a date night. That could be whether they're solo, a date night with themselves, a date night with their spouse, because it's really important to understand and be clear with one another about the finances in the house. A lot of times, as you all know, as relationship coaches, a lot of problems stem from money. And either maybe one partner is a saver and one partner is a spender. One partner is constantly paying bills late, and the other partner is constantly real critical about making sure that they adhere to the deadline so that credit doesn't get messed up and all that kind of stuff. So do you guys encourage date night? Date night for money? Have a money date night, not just a date night where we go out and splurge and just our time. I'm talking about a financial money, a money date night where we're talking about bills. Kenya.
I've never had a date night set aside just specifically for that, because I think that when it comes to money, it isn't anything that's on schedule. So I think it's an as need basis. A money conversation is an as needs base, because it's like, it depends on the stages that you are and how you handle money and where you are with money. So, to set aside a date night just to talk about money, the only way I would encourage that is that if there is something that absolutely needs to be talked about in some detail or in some depth, that this right here needs to be set aside specifically for this. But I think that the money conversation is something that needs to be an ongoing thing and as need basis.
Okay, let me ask you, Trevor, because you're married. So let me ask you, and typically, as you all know, I mean, in most couples, most marriages, I know when I was married, it was okay. You're going to handle these bills, you handle these, or it's your month to do the bills, and we alternate. Or you're going to do them this quarter, you're going to do them this year. So let me hear from you, Trevor, your spin on the situation.
One of my mentors years ago said that they planned, him and his wife, who are very successful. When I say very successful, I mean, maybe $20,000-$40,000 a month. And they said that they planned their week every Sunday. So every Sunday they plan their week out. My wife and I are trying to get into that. I hate the word trying. We're easing our way into that. If you look behind me, there's a calendar, there's a dry erase board. So we actually we have a spreadsheet that we share regarding money, trying to kind of pinch and take away what we don't need. But we're getting better at that. But it is something that we consciously need to do and want to do, only because it's just like anything else. Even when it comes to my current business, where it boils down to me talking to sometimes 10 women a day. It has to be mapped out. The time has to be mapped out. How much are we spending on advertising? How much are we investing in our second property? So it is something that we are going to more set a schedule on. But right now, it is like an as need basis. But I do believe that a couple should meet once a week, and it could be in their own home. Just, hey, this is what my goal is for the week, or this is what my goal is for the month. I think I can save an extra $50 this month. What do you think? Or, hey, we want to go to Disney World. How can we squeeze that in? All right, well, here's what we have to do. So my wife is incredible at that. Funny thing is, when I first started dating my wife, I was like the big saver. I didn't have cable. I was a bachelor. I didn't have cable. I didn't want cable because I didn't watch TV. I was reading books. I was going to the gym, and I was looking for the next pretty woman that I could, date, to be honest with you. But I was very good at saving. And my wife was like, she was okay. But she adopted what I did. And now she's like, she keeps me on my toes. But again, it does come from that conversation. She does have that conversation with me every 2 weeks.
Good. Yeah, I'm a strong believer. I think that in order for your finances to grow in a marriage and whatnot, there has to be some communication, ongoing communication about what's going on with the finances, so that one is not lost or anything like that, and you're both in the know and you're growing together. Even if you have those separate accounts, you still want to have those conversations on a regular, ongoing basis. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because I was going to say, we have daycare, we have groceries, we have she travels by train often, so we have the train budget. We just signed up for, and they got me with this, the car wash. The car wash is like $15 for one car wash, but if you sign up for the unlimited, which is like $29, you can go as much as you want. I'm like, so we have to add that to the budget, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna use that car wash 2 or 3 times a week. Right. But my point is, we do take the time to map all that stuff out so that we know where it's all going. But I think that is important, very important.
I applaud you for that. The money coach, I'm gonna applaud you.
Right? Yes, that's awesome. But yes, and that's why I stated it depends on what stage you are in your relationship, because for marriages, that is necessary. That is very important. But when you're dating, again, depending on what stage you're in your relationship, sometimes those conversations can be seen as unnecessary because you guys don't have those joint responsibilities. Or, one of the number one things, and this might gear off into something different, but one of the number one things when it comes to dating that I have come across with many, many, many clients in the events that I do is the whole first date, who should pay? Does the guy always have to pay when they take you out? That is a huge discussion. It's very sad, but it is a huge discussion. We talk about it more than I would like to, because sometimes it just blows my mind on how big of a discussion date nights are when it comes to couples that are dating. Who should pay? Where should we go? Do we have to go to a fancy restaurant? Why are we going to a fancy restaurant? That has to do with money. So again, the money discussions, it's all about what stage you're in your relationship.
So since we're on that conversation, let's just here. Who do you think should pay? In the earlier stage is of dating, when you're on that first date and we're talking about money, who's gonna pay? Who there's a lot of different takes on the situation. So let's lay it down. What do you think, Trevor?
I don't think there's many options. Some of it sounds a bit sexist, but honestly, this goes back just ancestrally. I think there's a certain method. I think some things are tradition just because they work, and men in the past would have to demonstrate their value by their resources. So if you want to demonstrate that you have, well, excuse me, ancestrally, not saying now, but a woman would choose a man based on his resources and his willingness to share it with her offspring. So if you in this day and age, you're not gonna, have a deer over your shoulder and, offer her a meal. You're not gonna do that. But if you want to demonstrate that you have resources and you're willing to share, which I still think subconsciously will touch a woman in some way, I think you just have to pay for a meal, period. It's just like you just have to pay for a meal. A guy just there's the first you have to. There's just no there's no way around it. It's almost like the guy who says, "Oh well, I don't need to buy a big ring because my love is not about material things." And I agree with that conceptually, but you got to get as big a ring as you can, because it subconsciously that has an effect on the average woman. Not saying every woman, because nothing is for everybody, but you just have to. There's no way around it. If he's not paying on the first date, he doesn't really take you that serious. He's just trying to hit it, and you should probably run. Unless you want him to hit it, then y'all could do that together. But yeah, he's not serious.
Right. So that brings up what I was just about to say. There's this misconception or thought that women feel that, oh, if he pays, he thinks he's gonna get some. So let's touch on that. I'll start with you this time, Kenya.
We talk about this a lot too in all of my events and with my clients. Again, the mind, it's a serious thing. If you go into that thinking that, then you just already set that date up for disaster. You have already set that date up for disaster, because no one really knows anyone's intentions except that person. So if you as a male are going into that, then you have set yourself up for a disaster. And if you are a woman and you're thinking that, oh, he thinks he's going to get some, I'm not going to get none. If that's playing in your mind the entire date, you're robbing yourself of an enjoyment of that date. You are robbing yourself. So again, I mean, not to take it lightly, but sometimes don't take first dates so serious, because that is what it is. It's just the first date. And based on that connection and what goes on, whether you're observing to see who's going to pay, or if you're observing to see what the intentions is, don't rob yourself of that enjoyment in that time. After that, that's when you assess the situation and decide if you want to move forward or if you want to run from it, because eventually it will come out. It will definitely come out. But don't ever go into anything thinking that you automatically know what these intentions are, because you're just saying, you might as well not go on it.
I gotta say something. I gotta say something because I'm the only guy, so I gotta
right. Go ahead, Trevor.
I would definitely say, I'm thinking of when, just being single and being young, I definitely would say if I paid for a date, I definitely did not expect something in return. And I know a lot of men would feel the same way. When the guy said, I put it this way, I expected to get some, but I didn't expect to get some as a result of me paying for something. I thought that was just my job, period. If I expected to get some, that was just me being confident, thinking, okay, I might. Obviously, that didn't work all the time. Right. But then, you got to go into it thinking, yeah, she wants me. And, at the end of the day, you're like, I guess that's not happening tonight. But going into many dates, guys often think, and I don't know, I would like to think, I'm going to speak up for my fellas. I'd like to think that they're not expecting sex because they paid. Maybe they're just expecting sex because that's what they think about so much, and they're hoping that she thinks about it too. But I feel that's really bad for a guy to think that a $40 date would get him sex. If that's the case, he needs to, there's a couple of countries he may need to go to spend $40 to get sex if that's what he really wants. But that's not that's not really serious. But guys, we want some, right. It is what it is. But it doesn't mean that, and I want to say that too, just because a guy, it's funny you mentioned that as far as what you've heard some people you've spoken to. I did a survey one time, and the number one annoying thing that happens on a first date, what most women said, probably like 30% of the time, which is, that was the most, was the guy talking about sex during the first date. And I try to say as much as I can, a guy talking about sex doesn't mean that that's all he wants. some guys just can't turn it off. I mean, we think about it all the time. It's hard to turn it off for this. Hey, we're at dinner. Can we not make everything sexual? But it doesn't mean that that's all he wants. I just want to kind of just throw that in there. Some guys talk about it a lot. They think about it a lot. But there's plenty of guys who I know that they're serious about finding a wife. They just they would still like to have sex early on in the relationship. Doesn't mean they should get it or will get it. Anyway, I just threw that in there.
Right. And also to say that about dinner and the first date. I mean, if the guy, as Trevor said, if he wants some, he's going to want some whether he pays for it or not. The dinner, that is. I'm just saying, if in his mind he wants some, then he's going to want it whether you pay for it, he pays for it, or you guys go Dutch. He's just going to want it.
It is, again, a guy should pay. That if there's a guy if there's guys listening to this right now, they that's not even.
Definitely.
This I don't know any women that'll really work with. Like, oh, I didn't really pay. There's some guys probably don't pay, and they really still think they're gonna get a kiss or get some. And then they deserve an award. That is bold. That is you gotta have kahunas to do that. Like, yeah, I didn't pay for anything, but you still will give me some. What? Like,
right.
Anyway.
I so agree with both of you. Wow. So before we wrap things up, because I think we got about another 20 minutes, I want to just give the floor to each of you. I'll start with ladies first. Why don't you just share with those that are listening or watching us tonight, share with them what it is exactly that you do, and just talk about your services and all those good things. And then we're going to wrap it up. We're going to go full circle and come back to you, Trevor. But Kenya, why don't you start with this, okay?
No problem. Well, what I do, my goal is to encourage healthy relationships, especially in this generation. Not saying that this generation is is worse off than it was before. I just think it's more exposed this generation. Yeah, I think it's more exposed this generation. I mean, Papa was a Rolling Stone back in the day. You had him, but it just wasn't as exposed as it is now. And a lot of people, they blame social media, the songs, whatever it is. I just try to get it back on track. So my goal is to reach the singles and the couples before they get married so that they will not have an unhealthy relationship turn into an unhealthy marriage. So I coach singles by themselves that are either in a relationship or are not in a relationship, but want to have the tools to make their relationship very healthy, make them look inside of themselves, see what hasn't worked for them in the past, see what issues that they're facing within themselves or what they've seen before, and help them get back on track. And I do couples that are not married yet to actually give them the tools as well to make their relationship healthy and to see if they want to go that route of marriage so that, again, they can have a healthy marriage without leading an unhealthy relationship into an unhealthy marriage. So I do couples counseling and coaching. I do singles coaching. I also hold monthly relationship events called Kenya's Catch and Keeps. And that's a monthly event where everyone gets together, singles, couples, married people, and we have healthy dialogue about relationships. I do activities so that I believe that interaction is very, very effective. And also, I don't believe that everything is general. I let everybody speak their piece on what they feel about relationships and what's going on in the world today so that everybody can have a piece of everyone, because not one person thinks alike. And a lot of people should get what society says and what should be going on in relationships out of their head, because every individual is different. It factors of how you are raised and what you see, that all plays a part. And everyone was not raised the same. You have people in two-parent homes, single mothers, single fathers, abusive homes, healthy homes, and everyone thinks different when it comes to relationship. So I try to get everything to the forefront. We do role play. I have various writing activities, and just so everyone can get it together. So those are the services that I offer: couples counseling, single counseling. I have these monthly events, and I also come out to you to hold my events. If you want to have a party, whether it's a bachelor party, bachelorette party, girls' night out, I will come and bring the Catch and Keep to you. But again, my bottom line is to encourage healthy relationships and help relationships get on the right track, because some people stay together or are in relationships and have no idea why. or if they know why, it's not necessarily a productive reason why or an effective reason why. So my goal is to have each individual and the couples have a light bulb moment. I don't encourage a breakup and I don't encourage staying together. I want those individuals to have that light bulb moment themselves and come to a realization on what they need to do to move forward.
Excellent. So really quickly, where can the viewers connect with you? Are you on social media?
Yes, I am on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all the same name under Kenya's Keepsake. The name of my business is Kenya's Keepsake, KenyaSkeepsake, Kenya's Keepsake. I can be found on social media, and a website is coming soon.
Got it, got it. Real quick, you know, I'm always big on free gifts because I always say if it's free, it's for me. Do you have anything that you would like to leave to those that are listening or watching us tonight? You have any free gifts anywhere where they can, besides social media, where they can connect with you?
Yes, definitely. So for tonight, I am offering free 15-minute introduction sessions, and you can find me on social media, or you can email me. My email is on social media as well, but my email is kenyaskeepsake1@gmail.com. Again, that's kenyaskeepsake1@gmail.com. You email me your information. I will set you up with a free 15-minute introduction consultation, and we can go forward. You can talk to me about anything you want, anything that's troubling you, or anything. And it's not, I don't only cater to people that are in trouble. I believe maintenance is key as well. So even if you're in a great, amazing relationship, but there's little quirks here and there that you just want to work out within yourself, I also coach you along with that as well. So again, Kenya's keepsake1@gmail.com. Email me and I will set you up with a free 15-minute introduction.
Why don't you do us a huge favor? When we're done, why don't you go and post that in the Infinity Wealth group, and that way those that are listening, if they want to take advantage of it, they absolutely can. Okay. All right.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Trevor, I'm going to switch over to you momentarily, but I want for you guys, I know when I first, let me just tell you how I met both of these individuals. Trevor and I met because Trevor's Instagram images kept popping up on my Instagram. And so I started following him, and when I came to a realization that I wanted to do something on sex, power, and money, I reached out to Trevor. And then Kenya, I had been following Kenya. Kenya is a client of mine, and I knew that she had been working on her relationship coaching and whatnot, and so I reached out to her to ask if she wanted to be a guest on the webinar tonight. But Trevor in himself, I think I caught one of Trevor's videos that he did on Instagram, and that's what really drew me into him. And then we had this conversation, and he's a talker. He's a talker, but what I like is that the matchmaking part of it. So Trevor, why don't you tell them a lot more about you? I'm only giving them the abbreviated portion of you. Why don't you tell them exactly what it is you do?
Okay. Well, just to correct you, because say it again.
We know relationship and matchmaking, so let's tell them more.
No, well, I'm sorry. I was going to take away the matchmaking because I don't do matchmaking just yet. There's a couple of reasons why, but I will probably eventually get into that. But what I really do right now is I wrote this book, Never Settle. Where is it? Oh, Never Settle, The Essential Guide to Finding and Keeping Your Ideal Mate. I wrote that because it allows me to have a lengthy conversation about some of the things I think vast majority of people don't know or use going into their dating or relationship. So I get messages on Facebook and Instagram all the time. I can't answer every question. So that's one of the things I've done to get that message out there. The other thing is I do free coaching sessions here and there for 30 minutes. That's just like my give back, and I do have a live webinar that I do every now and then. That's my give back. But really, I have about 5 to 10 clients each month that I work with directly. And like I said, the age range is somewhere between 35 and 50. And really what we're doing is we're helping them reframe the way they approach relationships. That's one thing that we were never really taught. We were never taught how to have success in a relationship. I mean, here it is, you spend half of your life with this person, but in high school, elementary school, your parents, no one ever really sat you down to say how to be successful. Same reason many people will never be millionaires in their life, because no one ever sat them down to tell them how to do it. It's really you kind of attacking it and looking for what your niche is and then finding a way to magnify it. The exact same thing that the female or male entrepreneur does in their business is exactly what I teach them to do in their dating and relationship life. Now, Cosette, you can probably attest to this. There's no way to really tell what plan to give somebody. Sometimes there's some general things you can teach somebody, but sometimes you really want to find out what their habits are, what their money blueprint is, what they feel about money, and what conversations can they eliminate that can help them increase it. When it comes to relationships, I think far too many people make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. So in a nutshell, what I really do is help people figure out the logical aspect of their dating and relationship status, because I don't have to teach somebody how to feel. I don't have to teach you to feel butterflies for that guy. But the logical aspect: does this person make sense for me? Or first of all, what exactly do I want, and does this person make sense for me long term? What should I do on the first date? Not necessarily general, but based on who you are, based on what you want. You say you want a guy that's in church. Okay, does that mean he can go to church once a month or once a week? Being very clear on what they want, I think that's one of the things that has allowed us to kind of help people have that success. So all I do is help people balance their logic and emotion when it comes to choosing and choosing a partner and making that relationship flourish.
Got it. So really quickly, I know we talked about never settle, and I'm big on entrepreneurs promote their book. So where can the viewers, you guys, let me switch this over. This here, can you see this? Never Settle. This is Trevor's book. Okay. So
that's my wife and I on the cover, by the way.
So where can they pick this book up?
Well, I think I'll do two things in one. As far as my giveaway, I want to be able to give something that will allow them, again, to have that long conversation, because just talking for 5 minutes it just won't give them the full story. So if they go to my website, which is trevortrioscott.com, so that's Trevor, Trevor, Trio is Treo, Scott, Scott, trevortrioscott.com. On the homepage, you should be able to find the book. If you want the book, you can get a signed copy. You get it from Amazon, wherever you want. But the other thing that I want to encourage you to do is there's a presentation, a registration button on there for my next webinar. You just click on that registration page, register for the webinar, watch the webinar, that we can have a full conversation. And if you're chosen, you may be one of the people that I can do one of those free coaching sessions with. So again, trevortrioscott.com, you can get the book. If you want to kind of join a longer conversation, register for the webinar. And if you're selected, we'll have a free coaching session. And hopefully those two or those three things can help you get some answers in your love life.
Can you do us a favor, Trevor? When we're done, can you go on the group and post your website? That way, those that need some counseling.
I've been watching you post during the. I'm on it.
Okay. Some love counseling, some connection, some coaching. Some coaching as it relates to relationships. You have two outstanding coaches here on the webinar tonight, and they are willing to pour and give what they can to help you find that love, that match. I'm not gonna say that lover, but that lover, that match. To be in a cohesive relationship, one that's fit, one, to find that right person that's for you, and I think they touched on that earlier. Find one on your level. And that's what they help you do. It sounds like Kenya helps you more so when you're in trouble or when you're in that dating phase, and Trevor is more so help you find that individual. So if I'm incorrectly speaking, you two, please jump in and say something.
No,
that's correct.
All right. Well, I don't know what time it is. Let's see. It's 8:21 my time, which means it's 11:21 where Trevor is back on the East Coast. So I think those of you that are out there and you've joined us tonight, or for those of you that may be listening on the replay, take this very seriously. We were talking about money, sex, and power tonight, and our guest speakers gave some very good information as it relates to dating, as it relates to money, as it relates to, we touched a little bit on sex. We didn't go into that topic very deep because we wanted to really just touch on it, but we wanted to really have this conversation on money and power and just dating as as a whole. So hopefully you learned something from it, and please do contact each of the guests tonight, as well as Trevor. They'll leave their information in the group, and I just want you all to have a fabulous week. And until we meet again on our next webinar, you all have a fabulous and amazing evening. Thank you so much again. And if you didn't catch this, then make sure you head over to www.myfinancialhome.com, click on live events, and it will be up tomorrow, and you'll have an opportunity to view it from the beginning, okay? All right, you all have a great one. Good night.
You too.